We are the higher self of the One, known to this instrument in the language terms as Carolina, who incarnated on this planet Earth on 1964 of the linear time-space continuum. We are here communicating in the love and light of the One Creator. And before we start to share our thoughts and insights with you, we would like to place a warning that you should only accept those thoughts which provide a deeper sense of inner resonance with your heart. We are in essence communicating from the density known as the sixth density of unity, wherein there is no separation and only unity is present. You must realize that each of your experiences is occurring on this timeline. However, unbeknownst to you, you are also existing in multiple other timelines as well. All the other timelines allow you a various lesson to be learned. Furthermore, this entity known as Carolina is also existing in all these timelines. This entity started its first density experience after originating from the One Creator on the Andromeda star planet around 8 million years ago, and this entity was given the soul name of Orama, as known in your language terms. This entity spent a large portion of the first density life cycle in the form of the water elements, learning specifically the lessons of beingness, and also learned what it felt like to just be. After this entity sufficiently spent its time on this level of consciousness, this entity then evolved and reached into the beginning stages of the second density, wherein it began to learn the lessons of that of experience, similar to your plant life, as found in your planetary sphere. After learning the lessons of the basic aspect of awareness building on the beginning stages of the second density, this entity then reached into the later stages of the second density, wherein it began to exist in the form of a animal life form, similar to the so-called dogs as found on your planetary sphere. However, this occurred on the same star planets in which it had originated in. This entity then, after a period of 8,000 years and multiple cycles of incarnations later, was able to graduate into the beginning stages of the third density, wherein this entity began to learn the lessons of the choice of choosing the path of polarity. In the beginning stages of the third density, this entity began to learn the lessons in the form of a third density, mind, body, and spirit totality. And after approximately 8 incarnations later, this soul, upon reaching the later stages of the choice density, and reached into the later stages wherein this entity began to choose the path of activation of the green ray energy center, and hence this entity was transported to the Lemurian lands, wherein this entity began to learn the lessons of the later phases of third density, and to learn the lessons as it moves upward in the spiral of third density, finally learning the lessons of the mid-third density and reaching the later third density phase, wherein it was transported to the Earth's humanity collective in order to access the window of soul graduation. This entity then incarnated on the Earth planet in the current timeline in the form of a human mind, body, and spirit totality, In the first incarnation on the Earth planet, this entity incarnated on the timeline of 1811, wherein this entity began to learn the lessons in the form of a man-body complex known by the name of Akania. On this incarnation sequence, the basic lesson learned by this entity was the lesson of the balancing of the lower chakras of the red ray, the orange ray, and the yellow ray energy center. Furthermore, this entity spent this incarnation as a farmer entity and crossed over on the timeline of 1880. After having learned the lesson, this entity then reincarnated into another timeline on 1914. On this incarnation, it took on the form of a woman body complex known by the name of Jacqueline. On this level of consciousness, the basic incarnation sequence and the lessons to be learned were the lesson of balancing its lower chakras of the red ray, the orange ray, and the yellow ray energy center. After which this entity reincarnated on this current timeline on 1964. And the main purpose of this life cycle for this entity is to learn to choose the path of love rather than of fear. Furthermore, this entity, after learning many of the lessons, entered into the beginning stages of the vibration pattern of the later sub-octave of the third density, and we can already sense that this entity is now ready to graduate into the higher levels. Therefore, beloveds, we leave you in love and light of the one Creator. Go forth and rejoice. Therefore, in the power and in the peace of the one Creator, Adonai.